Good morning, everyone. Mr. B here. We are getting to the end of our circles unit on circumference of circles. We're going to be starting area very, very soon. But I wanted to just quickly go over some common word problems that have been coming up, some of them giving some people some trouble. So let's go ahead and do a couple of these common ones together. One that was mentioned was a hockey player who was skating around a hockey rink that had a diameter of 17 meters. Okay? And the question was, how far did he skate if he skated twice around? Okay? I really encourage you, when you guys do these word problems, take some time, give yourself some scrap paper, really give yourself some time to work on these. A lot of the mistakes I'm seeing are people just kind of rushing through them. Now, in order to find out how far he went twice, we got to find out how far the distance is once around. And we do that by finding the circumference. And we use our formula, circumference equals pi times diameter. Now we know what pi is. We're going to approximate it at 3.14, and we're going to multiply it by the diameter of 17 meters in this case. Now, I do encourage you, go to the side of the paper or do it on some scrap paper and do the multiplication, okay? I really like to see it. So if you want to do it on the side of your paper, that would be excellent. And either way, when you come to your answer, you're going to end up with 53.38 meters. Now, that's not it, though, because the question wasn't what's the circumference. The question was how far did he skate if he goes around twice? So the last thing we need to do is then multiply our circumference, or the distance he went around once, and we need to multiply it by 2, which would give us an answer of 106.76 meters is what he traveled. Now, if it asks you to round to the nearest tenth, the 7 is our 10th, so the 6 would round it up, so we'd have 106.8. And if it wants to round to the nearest whole number, here's our nearest whole number, and 7 would round it up, so it could be 107. But it really, just make sure you read the question, because a lot of people aren't rounding when the question clearly tells you to round. So when you have something like this where it says go around a circle, it's X amount of times, that's what you need to do. Multiply it by that many times once you find the circumference. Now, another word problem that came up that quite a few people did get wrong was the one about making these frames with string. Now, the question was that this person is designing frames with string, and she has a total of 3.8 meters of string. And the question was, how many of these frames can she make if each one of them has a diameter of 0.12 meters? So that's the question we have to figure out. So the first thing we need to figure out is what is the circumference of one of these circles, and then we can estimate or multiply to get how many we can fit in 3.8 meters. So let's start off by doing our multiplication. So we want to find our circumference, so we do pi times diameter. Pi is approximated at 3.14, and we're multiplying by 0.12, or 12/100ths of a decimal in this case. So go ahead and do your multiplication on the side of the paper. You can follow along and do these with me, or you can just watch and pause when you need to. So we're going to have 0.3768 meters is the circumference of one of these frames. Now, the thing here is, we're not asked to find the circumference of one. We're saying if she has 3.8 meters of string, how many frames can she make? Now, because this number, we can do a couple different things here. We talked about multiplying by factors of 10, 100, or 1,000. And if you remember, if I want to multiply something by 10, I simply move the decimal one place to the right, making the number bigger. So if I did that here, I would get an answer of 3.768. And if we look up here, wow, that's almost dead on perfect. It's not going to go any higher than that, which means she needed 10, or she can make 10 frames. So a good method here is start by multiplying by 10. just to see where that gets you. In this case, and the exact case that we did in the worksheet, that would have been enough to get you there. Now, let's just say that wasn't the case. Let's say maybe she had, oh, I don't know, 4.4 meters of string. Okay, so if we multiply by 10, we wouldn't have enough. It would be 3.7. So then we can sort of start estimating. We can times this by 11 or by 12 and see what we get. Okay. Now, when you do work like this is okay to use a calculator here. I know we don't use them too often. This unit's been one of those rare units where we've actually used them a little bit. We're going to use them a bit more with area. If you have the time at home to do the long multiplication, that's great. It's good practice. But if you're making mistakes because your multiplying is the issue and not your knowledge of the actual question, then it's a bit different. So when you do this, go ahead and take your 0.3768, punch that into your calculator, multiply it by 11, and you're going to get 4.1. Okay, so you say, well, maybe I can go one more time because we're trying to get up to 4.4. So try multiplying by 12, and we get 4.5, so it's too much. So in this case, it would be 11 would be the amount that she could make. I always like to start with 10 and see where that gets me, and then I kind of just start estimating from there. But that's how we do questions like this. There was one other question on there, and it was the basketball one. And we've already done this one, so if you don't remember how to do the basketball question, go back to my previous videos, because that's a kind of question you're going to see in the previous videos, and that will help you a little bit there. One other question that's going to be coming up, we have one more sheet and it's a review sheet, is you're going to see a question like this. You're going to have a half circle. Okay, you're going to have a half circle. And we'll say that the diameter of this circle is 12 meters. Okay, and it's going to say, what is the circumference of this half circle? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is find the circumference of the entire circle by using the formula pi times diameter. Okay, go off to the side of your paper and go ahead and do your multiplication for simplicity's sake. So I'm not taking up too much of your time today. I'm using a calculator. You'll probably notice in all my previous videos I did not do that because I like to do the hand multiplication as well. And we'd end up with 37.68 meters. But remember, we want half of a circle, not the full circle. So as some of you have probably already figured it out, we need to divide this by 2 or cut it in half. Okay? When we're dividing by 2, this is a great time to practice your long division. It's really simple when you're dividing something by 2. It's a little bit different when you're dividing, 42.93 by 3.14. That gets a little bit trickier. But when you're working with a relatively easy number like this, it's great to go and practice your long division. And you're going to end up with a circumference of 18.84 meters. So again, when you see questions like this, just be careful that you're dividing the circle in half. Now, the last word problem that has come up, and you're going to see this one a few more times, is you're going to see a circle. Obviously, we're not doing anything else here. And they're going to tell you that the circumference of this circle is 14.2 meters. And they're going to ask you for the radius. So far, you guys have been going ahead and finding the diameter. The radius is just one more step. So most of you from your worksheets do know how to do this. When we have the circumference and we want to work backwards to find our diameter, we're going to take 14.2 and we're going to divide it by pi. Remember, we multiplied it by pi to get 14.2. So working backwards, we can get back to our diameter. So if you take your 14.2 and you divide it by pi, you're going to end up with a very, very long decimal number, which is 4.5222929. Okay, extremely long decimal number. So in these cases, the questions will often tell you to round. But we don't want to round yet, because remember, we're looking for the radius, not the diameter. If this is the diameter, remember we worked backwards from pi, we got our diameter. To get the radius is half the diameter. So just make sure you cut that long decimal number in half to give you a very long answer again of 2.2611464. And let's just say we want to round this to the nearest tenth. Here's our tenths, so we would go, this 6 will round up to 2.3 meters. So the radius of this circle is approximately 2.3 meters. So if you're asked to find the diameter, we just divide backwards. But if we're asked to find the radius, please make sure you divide it by 2. And don't round or anything till the very, very end. Some people make the mistake of rounding in the middle and then they end up with the incorrect answer. Don't round till you get to the very, very, very end. Okay? In terms of circles, I think that's, or for circumference, I should say, I think that's generally it. We're going to be moving on to area after this final review sheet for circumference. Please watch this video for word problems, guys. They can be a little bit confusing, but there are going to be quite a few of them on there. And a big part of your report card assessment does go under word or problem solving for math. So if you've done well on that last sheet, it's great. If you need a little bit of help and you're struggling, please message me on Google Classrooms. Have your parents message me on Remind. We're going to be working with Zoom, and I could hopefully do some work with you there, or I can call you and we could talk on the phone. Once again, guys, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.